Okay, so for this deep dive, I want you to sort of close your eyes for a second and picture something with me.
All right, I'm with you.
We're in Philadelphia.
Okay, Philly.
But we're not doing the tourist thing. We're not standing in line for a cheesesteak. We're not looking at the Liberty Bell.
No rocky steps.
No, none of that. We're going underground. We're standing on the platform for the Broad Street line.
Ah, so you can almost smell it. That specific subway smell.
You absolutely can. It's humid. It smells like ozone and old steel, and you have that just deafening screech of the trains coming in.
The standard chaotic energy of any big city subway.
It's just total white noise.
Yeah.
But then, cutting right through all of that, you hear this rhythm. It's really distinct. It feels like a call and response that's almost vibrating off the tiles.
All power to the people.
That's it. All power to the people. And that phrase, I mean, it carries so much historical weight.
It does. It immediately pulls you back, right? To the late 60s, to Oakland, you're thinking of berets and leather jackets.
But the thing is, when you open your eyes in this source material we're looking at, the visual is so jarringly modern.
That's the cognitive dissonance right there.
Yeah, you see commuters, just, people trying to get home. They're scrolling on their phones, holding grocery bags.
The absolute mundane.
And standing shoulder to shoulder right next to them are men in full tactical plate carriers. And they're holding heavy military-grade weapons.
It's a collision of two completely different realities. You've got a Tuesday afternoon commute smashing right into what looks like a forward operating base in some kind of war zone.
And the group we're looking at, they call themselves the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense. This is a chapter operating right now in Philadelphia.
And the central figures that our source material focuses on are a man named Chairman Paul Bleaton and another known as Comrade J, or his nickname is Skip.
And just so we're crystal clear for everyone listening, we are not talking about guys with, handguns tucked into their waistbands.
No, not at all. This is overt. It's meant to be seen.
The video source shows them carrying rifles openly, right across their chests. At one point, you see a woman in a Toyota just driving by, totally unfazed, and maybe 5 feet away from her car is a man with an AK-47.
That contrast is the hook. It's the whole reason this is so compelling. It forces you to ask the question, why? Why is this necessary?
Right. What is the perceived threat level on a Philly subway that requires you to carry an assault rifle just to get from one station to the next?
Well, if you ask them, and the source material does, the threat level is, it's existential.
It's everything.
The name itself, Black Panther Party for Self-Defense, that tells you their stated mission. But what we're going to find as we dig into this transcript is that their definition of defense is, well, it's incredibly complex.
It's not passive.
Not even close. It's proactive, it's aggressive, and it is very specifically targeted at two antagonists they identify: icy immigration and customs enforcement, and the local police.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. We're going to deconstruct this patrol. We're going to look at the hardware, the psychology of the men carrying it, and the very specific warnings they're issuing to the government.
And it's important to state our role here. We're observers. We are looking at this source material like a piece of evidence. The goal is to understand the worldview of the people holding those guns.
Exactly. We aren't here to moralize or, get into a debate about gun control or police budgets. That's not the point.
The point is to understand the internal logic of this group. When any citizen decides that the correct course of action is to put on body armor and patrol a public space with a rifle, a really profound shift has occurred in their relationship with the state.
And we need to understand what triggered that shift.
Right. What brings a person to that specific point?
So let's start with the gear, the tools, the trade. Because the chairman, Paul Bruffen, he doesn't just, wave a gun around vaguely. He gives us a guided tour of his arsenal.
And he's incredibly specific.
He holds up his rifle, and he introduces it to the camera as a Polish AK-47.
That detail, that caught my ear immediately.
Why? I mean, to the average person, I think, an AK is an AK. It's the gun the bad guys use in movies. Why does the Polish part matter so much that he makes a point to say it?
Because it's a massive flex, but only to a certain audience. It's an if you know kind of statement.
So what do we need to know?
Well, you have to understand, the American market is just flooded with cheap AK variants. You have stuff with stamped metal receivers, loose tolerances, guns that literally rattle if you shake them. They work, but they're not premium.
Okay.
But a Polish AK, specifically if it's from the Radom factory, that is very likely a milled receiver.
And what does that mean in practical terms?
It means it's machined from a solid block of steel. It's heavier, it's more robust, it's more accurate. In the entire world of Soviet bloc hardware, That is the Cadillac. It's top tier.
So he isn't just saying, I have a gun. He's saying, I have the good stuff.
Precisely. It signals a few different things. First, it signals connoisseurship. This isn't a guy who just walked into a pawn shop. He knows his ballistics, he knows manufacturing, he knows quality.
It implies a level of expertise.
It does. And second, it implies resources. These are not cheap street guns with filed off serial numbers that get tossed after one use. This is collector grade, reliable, military hardware.
So it changes the optics.
Completely. It elevates them from looking like a ragtag militia to, in their eyes, a professionalized unit. He's signaling that they treat their equipment with the same seriousness and respect that a professional soldier would.
And he pairs that Cadillac AK with another weapon that just visually looks terrifying. He calls it an AR-12.
Ah, yes, AR-12.
To me, it looks like an M16 or an AR-15. It has the same body, the magazine, the pistol grip, all the rails for attachments. But it's actually a shotgun.
Which is a fascinating and very deliberate tactical choice for a subway patrol.
How so? What does that choice tell you?
Well, think about the environment you're in. You are in a subway tunnel. It's enclosed, it's narrow, it's full of concrete and steel, and most importantly, it's crowded with civilians.
Right. Non-combatants everywhere.
So if you fire a high-velocity rifle round like 7.62 from that AK, it's traveling extremely fast. It can go through your intended target, through a thin wall, and hit a person standing 50 feet behind that threat.
That's called over-penetration, right?
Exactly. And it is an absolute nightmare scenario if your stated mission is to protect the community you're in.
You could end up hurting the very people you're there to defend.
Precisely. But an AR-12 that fires 12-gauge shotgun shells. Now, at close range, and we're talking the kind of range you'd have on a train platform,
right,
it is devastatingly lethal, arguably even more so than the rifle.
The projectiles are different.
Very different. The pellets, or the slug, they don't travel as far, and they don't penetrate structures in the same way. So carrying an AR-12 in that specific environment implies that they have actually war-gamed this scenario.
They've thought about close quarters battle.
Yes. They've thought about the unique challenges of a fight underground. The AR-12 is essentially a modern trench-clearing weapon. It's designed for that exact kind of fight.
Which just makes the whole visual even more aggressive. You have the rifle for medium distance and the shotgun for the up-close brawl.
It's a comprehensive loadout for that specific battlefield.
And the message they attached all this hardware is, well, it's not subtle. The chairman points right at the camera, but he's really pointing at the government, and he says, this is my response to ICE right here.
And then he drops the slogan that has become the internet's favorite warning sign.
Fuck around and find out.
It's become a meme, sure, but in this context, linguistically, it's a conditional statement of engagement. It's a very clear boundary being set. If you do X, then Y will follow.
And he makes it even more personal. He says, try doing that shit to me. See what happened.
He is issuing a direct personal challenge to federal authority. He is. It feels personal because he's stripping away the uniform and the badge. He's essentially saying, I don't care if you're a federal agent. If you come at me, you're just a person, and I am a person with a Polish AK.
It's a rejection of the authority that the badge represents.
That's the core of the message. He's rejecting the immunity that usually protects law enforcement in these encounters. In a normal societal interaction, a badge and a uniform act as a kind of shield. He's saying, out here, on this platform, that shield doesn't work.
The only thing that matters is physics and ballistics.
It's a complete and total rejection of the state's monopoly on violence.
And to back up that claim, they look the part. The source material talks about them checking their gear, being locked and loaded. They're wearing the vests. They're moving with a clear purpose.
This is what you could call the aesthetic of power. Uniforms matter. A uniform creates a sense of legitimacy.
What do you mean?
Think about it. If these were just 5 guys in hoodies and jeans holding guns, the police would almost certainly treat them as a gang and engage immediately. The response would be swift and decisive.
Right, it would be seen as a criminal threat.
But because they have the tactical vest, the disciplined formation, the specific high-end weaponry we just discussed, they are essentially hacking the visual language of the state. They look like a quick reaction force. They look official.
It creates confusion in the hierarchy. It looks like they should have authority, even though they don't.
Exactly. And that forces the police or anyone else to pause. It creates a moment of hesitation. Who are these guys? Are they authorized? Are they some obscure federal unit I don't know about? And in any tactical situation, creating hesitation in your opponent is a weapon in itself.
Okay, so they've got the gear, they've got the look, but having the gun is one thing entirely.
And this is where their philosophy gets really complicated.
The chairman of self-defense, that's in their name. It sounds legally sound, it sounds reasonable, but then he explains the math of his defense.
The math is cute.
He says, you throw one shot at me, I'm throwing 30 at you.
And right there, in that one sentence, the conventional label of self-defense starts to peel away, and you see something much more doctrinal underneath.
He clarifies it with a phrase that, I think it's the most important line in the entire source. He says, it's not even eye for eye, it's like eye for the eyes.
Eye for the eyes. Plural.
What is the significance of that distinction?
It's everything. Think about the original concept of an eye for an eye. It comes from the Bible, from Hammurabi's Code. It's actually a principle of limitation. It's designed to stop escalating vengeance.
So it's about proportionality.
Exactly. If you take my eye, I am only allowed to take your eye. I can't kill you. I can't burn down your house and salt your fields. It's about restoring a balance.
But the chairman is explicitly saying, I don't want balance.
He wants dominance. He wants erasure. Eye for the eyes means if you take one of mine, I take both of yours. I leave you blind. I leave you completely unable to ever threaten me again. It's a doctrine of overwhelming, disproportionate force.
So it sounds less like self-defense and more like a preemptive strike doctrine, or at least a doctrine of total annihilation once a line is crossed.
It completely blurs that line. But you have to remember, in their worldview, the first strike already happened. Systemically, historically. So this physical response, even if it's 30 rounds for one, is, in their minds, just balancing a historical ledger that has been wildly out of balance for centuries.
He says it explicitly. He says that if you shoot, nobody next to you that has your back has the ability to fire another shot.
He's talking about wiping out the entire squad.
He is. He's talking about total neutralization.
Yeah.
It's pure military logic. You don't shoot a wound. You shoot to stop the threat permanently and anyone associated with that threat.
And that requires a level of psychological conditioning that is, frankly, terrifying to think about happening on a public street. He's talking about unleashing a storm of lead in a crowded, enclosed area.
But he does couch it in one very important constraint. He says, you have to attack us first. They maintain that they are reactive.
Which is a crucial legal and moral position for them. But imagine what that does to your state of mind. It puts you in a state of permanent hypervigilance.
You're always waiting for the attack.
You're walking through that subway station, scanning every police officer, every person, making a sudden movement, just waiting for that one shot that gives you the green light to unleash the 30. It's like walking around with your finger putting 4 pounds of pressure on a 5-pound trigger. 24/7.
So who are they waiting for? Who is the intended target of this eye for the eyes philosophy? The source material is very clear on this. It's a two-front war.
IC and the police.
Let's start with the federal threat, with IC. The transcript brings up the political climate. It directly mentions Trump and this idea that the government is waging war on your own fucking country.
And that war rhetoric is absolutely crucial. Because if you believe the government is just performing administrative tasks you disagree with, you vote, you protest, you write letters.
But if you believe the government is waging war on you,
you arm yourself. You form a militia. They mention a specific statistic that ICE tripled its budget and was recruiting more than 10,000 people.
And whether that number is perfectly accurate in that exact moment doesn't really matter as much as the scale of it, right? It's the perception.
It's the perception of a massive mobilization. They see an army being built, an army they believe is designed to invade their communities. So, in their logic, what's the correct response?
You build a counter-army.
You can't fight a tank with a protest sign. You fight an army with an army. That's their framework.
And then there's the second front, the local one, the police, the pigs, as they consistently call them.
Yeah.
And this part of it felt different to me. The ICE stuff felt political, almost abstract in a way.
The police stuff felt personal.
It's visceral.
Yes, that's the word. There's this one moment in the video that just grounds all this high-level revolutionary talk. The chairman, he sort of stops posturing for a second. His voice drops a little.
And he talks about his little cousin.
On that same broad straight line, he says his cousin almost got ripped.
Which means what? Arrested?
Assaulted.
Harassed.
Mm-hmm.
A negative encounter of some kind. It's left a little vague, but the meaning is clear.
And in that moment, he's not Chairman Blyton of the Black Panther Party for self-defense anymore. He's just talking about a kid and his family getting messed with on the way home.
You can hear the exhaustion in his voice just before the anger kicks back in. And that pivot from a tired protective uncle back to an armed militant, It happens in a split second.
And he just says, "Cops ain't doing nothing for us."
And that sentence right there, that is the sound of the social contract collapsing.
Explain that.
Well, the whole basis of a civil society is that we as individuals trade our right to use violence for state protection. We give up our swords, and the state promises to protect us with its sword.
Okay.
But if you look at the police and you don't see protection, if you see a threat that you believe is above the law and can do what the fuck they want with impunity, then the contract is void.
And you take the violence back, you pick up your own sword again.
You take the violence back, it becomes a privatization of your own security. And what I found so surprising about this is how wide they define the community they're protecting. You'd think a group with black in the name would focus exclusively on black issues.
But they don't. They go really hard on the immigration issue. The chairman says, "Look what he doing to our peoples," and then he clarifies, "No matter what your skin color, you are our peoples."
That's a fascinating expansion of the classic us versus them dynamic.
It is. It reframes the entire conflict. It's not black versus white. It's not citizen versus immigrant. In their worldview, it's the people versus the state.
So by claiming immigrants, who are often Hispanic or Asian or from other backgrounds, by claiming them as our peoples, they're building a coalition.
A coalition of the marginalized. It makes their platform much broader and, frankly, much more threatening to the establishment. They are attempting to unify all the different groups they feel are being targeted by the state.
So we know the leadership, we know the ideology, we know the declared enemies. Who are the foot soldiers? Who signs up for this?
We get a very intimate look at one recruit in particular, a man named Comrade J, or Skip.
And Skip's story is, it's almost the classic archetype of the seeker, isn't it? He admits very openly, I was in the Bloods.
He was a gang member.
And he says this thing, he says, I knew eventually the revolution was going to catch up to me, but I ran from it for a long time.
That phrasing is so interesting. Catch up to me.
Right. It makes it sound like destiny. Like it was inevitable.
It completely reframes his entire life story. He isn't saying, I was a bad guy, now I'm a good guy. He's saying, I was always searching for structure, for purpose, for a brotherhood, and I just found it in the wrong place first.
That makes sense. Gangs offer a hierarchy, they offer a code of conduct, they offer a form of protection.
And the Panthers offer all of that, plus something that gangs don't. Moral righteousness, political ideology, a higher purpose.
So it's a lateral move in terms of skill set.
Yeah.
He knows how to handle weapons. He knows how to watch his back on the street. But it's a huge upward move in terms of status and meaning. He goes from being a gangster to a revolutionary.
A freedom fighter in his own narrative. But the initiation process, it's clearly not a walk in the park. The chairman describes the training process using a really violent metaphor. He calls it the chisel.
I remember that quote. Brothers is going to make you into some lethal-ass motherfucking revolutionaries. We're going to chisel the fuck out of you.
Just think about the physics of a chisel for a second. How does it work?
It chips away at stone. It's destructive.
It's destructive creation. You strike the stone and you remove material. You chip away all the excess, all the soft parts, to reveal the form underneath. He's telling these recruits, we are going to systematically chip away your fear, your softness, your hesitation, your civilian mindset.
It implies that the process is painful.
It demands that it's painful. He says very clearly, if you are scared, walk away. He is actively filtering for only the true believers, the ones who can endure the chiseling.
And the commitment he demands is total. He calls it a 247 lifestyle. And then he says, till we die.
That till we die part, that's cult level commitment. Or, maybe more accurately, it's military level commitment.
It's what you'd expect to hear in boot camp.
It's absolutely necessary for unit cohesion. If your strategy is to stand on a subway platform with a shotgun and stare down a SWAT team, you have to know without a shadow of a doubt that the guy standing next to you isn't going to panic and run.
You need to know that he's been chiseled into the exact same shape that you have.
There can be no weak links.
So let's talk about that subway platform. Because all this theory, the Polish AKs, the philosophy of disproportionate force, the chiseling, it all has to eventually survive contact with reality.
Right. How does the public, the community they claim to protect, actually react to this?
And the source shows it's a really mixed bag of fear and validation.
It is. There's this one surreal scene where they all walk into a local shop to get smoothies.
I know. After all this intense talk of war and eye for the eyes and lethal revolutionaries, they're just calmly ordering fruit smoothies.
It's a moment of normalcy that grounds them. It reminds you that underneath the plate carriers, they're still just guys from the neighborhood.
But the reaction of the people around them is what's really telling. The chairman, at one point, he shows his phone to the camera, and his inbox is just a wall of timestamps.
29 minutes ago, 3 hours ago, 10 hours ago. It's constant.
And the messages are pleas for help. They're from people in the community saying they're scared, saying things like, no one's going to be there to protect us.
That inbox, for them, that is their mandate. That's their bat signal. Every single one of those messages reinforces their core belief. The police have failed, the state has failed, and the Panthers are the only option left.
So they don't see themselves as imposing their will on a reluctant populace.
They see themselves as being summoned. They're first responders.
But not everyone is happy to see them. The source is honest about that. It says some people are terrified. And I mean, I get it. I don't care who you are, what your politics are. If I'm buying a smoothie and a guy walks in with an AR-12 slung across his chest, my heart rate is going up.
Of course. That's a normal human reaction. And the Panthers know that. But for them, I think fear is a utility.
What do you mean by that?
If the criminals fear them, that's a good thing. If the police fear them, that's a good thing. If some in the community fear them, well, they might see that as a necessary byproduct of projecting the strength needed to keep everyone safe.
They believe the fear will eventually turn into respect.
Exactly. They believe that once the community sees them walking at any hood at any given moment and being safe, being a deterrent, the fear will be replaced by appreciation.
And that brings us to the climax of the source material. The moment where they actually encounter the dual threat they're always talking about. The subway standoff.
This is the stress test for the whole operation. They are downstairs in the station, they are armed to the teeth, and the police come downstairs.
Now, in 99 out of 100 scenarios in America, if a group of men with rifles encounters the police in a confined public space, it ends in one of two ways: arrests or gunfire.
But that is not what happens here.
Not at all. According to the source, the police see them, take one look, and they went back upstairs.
They retreated.
The chairman's interpretation is blunt. He says, the police are terrified of us. And then he adds, as soon as we approach cops, they take off running.
That is a staggering claim to make. They take off running. Why would they do that?
Well, we have to look at this from two different angles, right?
We do. From the Panther perspective, it is a total undeniable victory. They showed their fangs, and the bully backed down. They interpret the retreat as cowardice.
The chairman basically says, they only want to fight people who can't fight back. When they see us, they know the cost of a fight is too high.
It's the eye for the eyes doctrine in action. The police looked at the Polish AKs and the AR-12s, and they did the math in their heads. If I draw my pistol, he's going to throw 30 rounds back. Is it worth it?
And the answer was no. The deterrence worked exactly as planned.
That's their view. Now, from a tactical police perspective, which isn't in the transcript, but we can infer, it might have been a de-escalation choice.
You mean a strategic retreat?
The strategic retreat. The commanding officer on scene might have decided, I am not starting a massive firefight in a crowded subway station full of civilians if I can possibly avoid it. We'll deal with this another way.
But the reason for the retreat doesn't matter as much as the optic of it.
The optic is everything. The optic is the Panthers held the ground, the state's representatives left.
And in doing so, they create what you could call a liberated zone. For the duration of that patrol, that subway station was not under the control of the City of Philadelphia Police Department.
It was under the control of the Black Panther Party for self-defense.
And that is a massive symbolic victory. It proves to the community, and more importantly, it proves to the new recruits, that their methods actually work.
It proves that the gun is a kind of magic wand. You wave it, and the state's authority momentarily disappears.
It creates a pocket of sovereignty, and they see this as their birthright. This isn't just about something that happened last week. The legacy aspect of this is huge for them.
It's central to their identity. The young recruit, the one with the grandfather.
Yeah. He says his grandfather was a Black Panther back in the day. And then he says the line, it's in my blood, literally.
That line, that just stopped me in my tracks when I read it, because it implies that this isn't an ideology you just learn from a book. It's an inheritance. It's passed down.
It connects the timeline from the 1960s straight to today.
It does. It tells us that for this young man, fundamentally, nothing has changed in 60 years. His grandfather fought the police with guns because he felt he had to, and now he is fighting the police with guns because he feels he has to.
It suggests a cycle of trauma and resistance that is, in his words, encoded in his DNA.
So he isn't just patrolling for himself or for his cousin. He believes he is standing with the ancestors. It adds this whole spiritual, almost sacred layer on top of the tactical gear and the modern weapons.
And it makes the movement incredibly resilient, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because you can't just arrest a guy. You have to somehow arrest a lineage, a history.
Precisely. You're fighting an idea that is passed from one generation to the next.
So we've looked at the hardware, the philosophy, the standoff, the legacy. Where does this leave us? The source ends with a direct challenge. The chairman is asked about the possibility of escalation. What if Trump, or the government in general, sends in the feds? What if 100 federal agents show up to shut you down?
And his answer is just chilling in its simplicity.
Send them. Come on.
Zero hesitation.
None. He is signaling in the clearest possible terms that they are past the point of negotiation. They are prepared for a final confrontation. They're prepared to die on that subway platform for their beliefs.
They believe the social contract is dead and buried. They believe the government is an active enemy combatant, and the only thing left is the Polish AK and the will to use it.
It's such a heavy reality to process. We are looking at a small group of American citizens who feel that the only way to safely ride a train in their own city is to dress for war.
And that is the tragedy at the very center of this deep dive. The slogan, "All power to the people," is meant to be empowering. But when that power has to be expressed through the barrel of a 12-gauge shotgun because every other avenue of trust has completely eroded, that is a very precarious place for a society to be.
It really forces all of us to ask, what does safety actually look like? Does it look like a police officer on every corner? Does it look like a Black Panther with an AR-12 on every subway platform?
Or does it look like a world where neither of them needs to be there, armed like that, in the first place?
And until we can answer that question, their warning just hangs in the air. Fuck around and find out. It feels like we are all, as a country, finding out what happens when the system fractures this deeply.
And they're still out there. They're waiting, they're training, and they are on the Broad Street line right now.